I might be a bit late to the reviews, but now that it's been almost 2 months using the 17 Pro daily, I feel like I finally understand why and what Apple did with this iPhone. A lot of things I didn't like at first, like the design, make way more sense now, so some opinions I've had have changed, but most importantly, now I know who this phone is for, though unfortunately, it's not for you. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is the design. It went from premium to utilitarian, which is not a bad thing on its own. It can probably be argued that it's actually a good thing for a phone called Pro, but given how premium Pro iPhones used to feel and look, it's quite a drastic change, frankly, and it takes getting used to, especially if you're buying one primarily for its looks. For me though, it's more about using it naked because I don't like putting stuff on my phone, but with an aluminium body, it's something to be enjoyed with caution, now that it's way more prone to dents and especially scratches. Not to mention that it just feels and looks like a plastic toy in general. So it loses its whole use it without a case appeal. Having said that, those were my initial thoughts, but then I did this, and it all started making sense again. Now, the only noticeable change is the extended camera, and honestly, it doesn't even look bad. However, the changed design underneath still works as intended, and now that it's not soaring your eyes, you can really appreciate it. I've not once had this iPhone overheat in the last 2 months, even if I leave it on the charger in the car for a long time, which, you know, is the ultimate test. It still remains functional without any hints of thermal throttling and lagging. Not to mention that this also protects the battery, which we'll talk about in a second. Even heavy and extreme use like editing and shooting doesn't push the thermals over the edge. It does get warm, but never enough to actually lead to any problems, because the aluminium spreads the heat all over the unibody and the vapor chamber inside it helps cool it back down. So given that 90% of you use a case anyway, the design is a massive improvement after all things considered, and for the rest 10%, just put a case in it and get over it. The only thing I still don't like is the weight, but there's nothing you can do about it if you want good battery life, which this phone does have. Genuinely, I haven't managed to get it below 20%, even during the initial heavy testing periods. On most days, I end up with 50% battery life or more, despite 5+ hours of screen on time. It literally doesn't matter how I'm using it, whether it's all day on 5G or using the camera to no end. It gets through a whole day with at least 20% of battery life left, which also helps prolonging the overall battery health, because it mostly degrades when it's either hot or undercharged, which naturally never happens on this phone. Also, it's been really good at keeping apps open in memory, so given that it doesn't overheat and doesn't need to go into low power mode, the day-to-day performance has been really smooth and seamless. I don't remember it being so good with any other iPhone since the 5S probably. It really makes you enjoy using the phone and takes all of the usual frustrations out of your day. On another note, I've also enjoyed the increased brightness of the display. It's genuinely much easier to read due to the changed design that helps keep the phone cool, so the display can actually reach the promised brightness and keep it going for a really long time. The only thing I've been kind of disappointed with is the anti-glare finish, if it can even be called that. The improvement is barely noticeable. It definitely can't compete with any other phone, which is somewhat of a shame, though the improved sustained brightness helps make up for it. Also, they've improved the ceramic shield. It's now 3 times as scratch resistant and 4 times as tough. All I can say is that I've used this iPhone without a screen protector for the whole time, and I don't have a single scratch so far. But my 16 Pro didn't have any whatsoever either, and I had used it the whole year without a screen protector or case, so I might not be the best one to test this out. I'm generally careful with my devices. I know some of you are wild. That said, if there is one thing that this phone doesn't disappoint with in any way, it has to be the camera. Every time I've picked it up to get a shot, I've always been pleased with the result. I've actually been enjoying it to the point that I'd go on walks with it just to get some shots and indulge in photography. With the updated telephoto lens, it finally feels like there is no wrong lens to shoot from. You will generally get great pictures out of any sensor on this phone. Also, because the size of a telephoto has increased substantially, it now has beautiful fall-off and foreground blur on tight frames, which makes it feel more like a big camera for certain pictures. You'll enjoy it a lot more if you take lots of portraits. sets. Also, Apple seems to have tweaked the algorithms on the 17 series because the main camera captures noticeably more detail compared to the 16 Pro, despite sharing the same sensor. Pictures look less like mush when you zoom in, and the thing is, the details are not AI generated or just over-sharpened to look more detailed. They're actually there. So for photography, this phone has been genuinely replacing my own camera. I pretty much don't use it to take pictures anymore. But keep in mind that all of these pictures are only possible because the 17 Pro shoots in RAW. If you're just gonna take it out, point and shoot, you're not gonna get the same colors and exposure. But you will get the more detailed shots from the main lens and the falloff from the telephoto lens. When it comes to video, in the standard mode, Apple has been beating every other smartphone out there. So I don't feel like you want to hear the same story every other review video tells you. Neither do I use the standard camera mode, because doing so would be a disgrace to this phone. On the 17 Pro, Apple updated the log profile to represent the colors and exposure more accurately. So for wide scenes that don't require attention to detail or background fall off, it's pretty much on par with a big camera. I, for example, have been recording literally everything in log, and with it becoming a lot more popular due to iPhones having it, there's now plenty of apps that can apply an instant color grade or filter to your footage, so anyone can take advantage of this feature. That leaves one question. If it's so great, why is it not for you then? Well, you've probably noticed what I'm leading towards. This is the first time that an iPhone is fully deserving of a name Pro, because all of the changes that it got were only to make it suitable for the features that it offers. It's now a genuine tool for pros, not a shiny toy like it used to be. There's iPhone Air for that. Most of these features probably don't even mean anything to you. But to achieve them, this iPhone had to sacrifice its looks, durability, and the premium feel, all while getting more expensive. In other words, you'd be guaranteed to get the downsides, while most likely never enjoying the features that it offers. So if that sounds like your case, there's a much better iPhone for you. And that phone is the base iPhone 17.